Fucking slut. There we go. I got the recording going just in order to catch those last two words. All right. I hope that you are ready to ask me questions and I don't have to do any work because goddamn, Charlie, I'm tired.
You're tired. I'm dying. I have drunk like a million Lemsips. Okay, I've drunk like 2, but I'm about to drink my 3rd one, and it sounds like I've swapped my mouthwash for a chainsaw. So I apologise to anybody listening that has to put up with that.
I presume that they're not going to hear that apology because we haven't done the sync clap yet. Come on, that wasn't an intro. We have to start the podcast properly. This is just us having a conversation. There's two good friends, one of whom is annoyed at the other for not doing an intro. So shall we do a clap and then we can start?
Right, go on, countdown.
3, 2, 1. Podcast, pop podcast, podcast, pop podcast. It's a fucking podcast. It's a podcast. Did we decide what we were going to call the podcast last week?
We didn't, and I was about to ask you that because I'm currently uploading last week's episode and I don't know what to title it in YouTube.
Well, we'll figure that out later.
Currently, it's just called Pod 1, so I was about to give my intro as Welcome to Pod 2.
We could call it, hey, on the token of ripping off the Triforce, we could just call it the Tripod because we both have such massive dicks,
Oh my god. Both, as if one of us has 2.
What?
What? Never mind.
No, a tripod is used as a term for a man.
I know, but...
You're an idiot.
How does that work with 2 people?
Well, we're
It'd be
both
a quad
tripods.
pod.
We're both... Why is there only an extra 1? There's either 3 or 6 in this scenario, or 5 if one of us is not a tripod. What are you honestly talking about? Well, actually, I don't have legs. I just have a really big cock. Right, shut your mouth. I'm going to do an intro. Hello, and welcome to the podcast, which we do not have a name for yet. Today I am joined by Charlie.
Hello.
And no one else.
And no one else. We are Sam's guest. I know we promised a guest, but maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe next week. Or maybe not. Unimportant, I think, really. People are here for me, and anyone else is just sort of additional set dressing. I think that's fair to say. Let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie. How have you been doing this week?
Well, first of all, that's kind of a lie, 'cause it's not quite been a week yet.
It's a colloquialism.
Just behind the scenes, ooh. But, okay, so new guinea pig is settling in. We named her. We called her Autumn.
Many approve.
She's super cute. She's settled in. The other guinea pigs are getting along with her now. She was cuddled up with both of them yesterday.
Oh, I feel like this is going to be like Brooke and Noodle are like this couple that don't really get on, and then they have to through circumstance they have to adopt this child because she's got nowhere else to go, and then the love for this new guinea pig brings them closer together. So I'm glad that it's all working out well, and that.
Oh my god, we could totally do we could film little scenes with them and then dub over them like a little guinea pig sitcom.
We could do that, yes. I was thinking about playing Dawn of War instead of doing that, but, don't let that preclude you from your weird dreams. Let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie. How are you doing this week?
I'm very ill.
Poor Charlie.
Yeah, other than that, I'm doing alright. I've spent most of the time editing this podcast. I rendered out a test last night. Well, the entirety of yesterday it took to render. Because for some reason After Effects got stuck on AVI and it would only render as AVI. And so it rendered out this 600 gigabyte fucking video that took 15 hours to render.
Yes, industry standard professional software. Yeah, I mean, I use a shitty version of Vegas that I got cheap, and I have obviously been spending this week largely working on our Jingle Cats.
Yes.
The Jingle Cats remix of Pleasure Elf, which has accrued in the 2 days it's been up a staggering 85 views on YouTube. But
that's actually not terrible.
Not for our
such a huge amount of Jingle Cats as well.
But yeah, that was fun. I mean, I absolutely went mental. I mean, I did learn how to not edit something more complicated than just a highlight video. I learned exactly how to not do the things. So hopefully next time, which will be next year when I'm making another Jingle Cats, I'll be able to do it better. But I think I struck the perfect balance of shit and like good shit and bad shit. Like obviously it's all absolute garbage because it's fucking Jingle Cats, but I think I found the sweet spot of putting in just enough effort that it wasn't completely unwatchable.
Yeah. No, it's actually really good. I liked it. I was impressed. Your memeage was top tier.
Thank you. That's literally, I mean, we can end the podcast now. That's all I wanted to hear. That's all I've wanted out of life. That's why I do this. That's why I put myself on the internet doing the Twitch. It's just so people will compliment my memes. And now I have that, I can die happy. Jesus Christ, if I'm listening to this back next week and this bit of conversation made it into the podcast, then the rest of the podcast must have gone really badly. That's all I'm gonna say. If this bit's still in, there's nothing to look forward to.
We're really scraping the barrel.
Except for,
soon.
of course, Gin Quest Part 2, but that's for later.
Oh, you have done the next one.
Yeah.
I should point out, instead of using a D20 simulator, I have actually procured a D20 for Gin Quest.
Oh, good, excellent.
So that's on my desk.
Very good.
I just thought it might add to the magical realism, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I don't care as long as you don't lie. Yeah, that's cool, Charlie. Well done. End of sentence. So let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie. Have we got any questions from our adoring fans? Oh, wait, hang on. Adoring fan. Sorry, I misread that.
I actually have a question of my own. Can I go first?
What's your question for me, Charlie?
Alright, so if you could go anywhere in the world and do anything while you were there, you have like maybe 2 weeks and you don't have any like money restrictions or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know, you've been like, you have to go away and do something with it. It's not like you've just been given a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You like won a holiday competition.
Yeah, like I was on Wheel of Fortune. It's America's game. And they gave me a cruise trip and they said, this cruise trip's going to take you to anywhere in the world and we're going to pay for you to do something magical. What do you want to do? Okay. Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of a big question. I think it could really go either way. I think I'd either go to like Southeast Asia and Australia and go on like a big like Buddhist-y sort of adventure, walking around. You know, I'd use the money to like hire someone to make sure I didn't get lost or stabbed. You know, and you know, like have a nice sort of 2-week spiritual vacation. Do you know, or I would go to like somewhere really, really like beautiful, like massive natural beauty, like I don't know, Iceland or Norway or the Caribbean or like, you know, the African savannah somewhere, and I would get them to build me like a big like sort of raised up platform off the floor with like a little sort of cabin in for me to live on. And then just take like just a shitload of drugs, like so much. And when I say drugs, obviously I mean PCP, because it is objectively the best drug. I mean, there are so many benefits. It's very good for you, PCP. If you're listening to this at home, especially if you're underaged, you should take PCP at the first opportunity you get. Maybe we should have got Jig on the podcast so that he could do his usual shtick of doing a disclaimer every time I open my mouth that we are not responsible. The Not a Cult is not responsible for any dumb decisions you make based on Zen's advice. I don't know what I'd do with 2 weeks of unlimited budget. I honestly, genuinely, this is what I thought about doing if I won the lottery, which I don't do the lottery because I'm not an idiot. But you know, if I did, like this, say like I found the lottery ticket and won $1 billion.
But if I was an idiot,
yeah, if I was an idiot and I somehow won the lottery, I'd get all of us together. I'd fly everyone over from all over the world and just like rent a big office for in this case 2 weeks. And we would do like a week-long stream, like so that the stream was constantly running and we all took shifts and we'd do a big charity thing.
Oh, that'd be fun, actually.
Yeah, because then we can get like really, really drunk and like I can not turn up to my stream slots because I'm like really hungover, and then you'll get really annoyed because you're having to cover me and you haven't had a break in like 6 hours, but everyone's in like the back room like making a cup of coffee and no one's coming. It'll be great. It'll be really great. I think it will really, really
sounds perfect.
Yeah, it'll really stretch our friendship, and afterwards no one will ever want to speak to each other again. And I think that's the sign of a good weekend. So that's what I'd do with my money. I'd get us a big room and fly everyone over, and like do a big stream, and obviously afterwards take a lot of PCP.
I was going to say that I would do either a road trip across America, because I've always kind of wanted to do that, and I've never been to either South or North America. Or I would go to Kenya, because I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, Kenya's good.
So, moving on. There was no, like...
Yeah, no,
nothing
Kenya,
going
no,
off
that's
that.
good. I think that's good. I know that it's not really in the spirit of taking this question seriously, but I think that you're not really taking advantage of the unlimited money aspect of this. Like, you could say that you wanted to go to, like, you know, you could sort of get around the system by saying, oh, well, I can go anywhere on the world, but I want to do is go to the moon. So you could, like, go to, like, you could say, oh, well, I go on Go to Cape Canaveral and with my unlimited money get them to build me a space rocket, and then at the end of the 2 weeks you could fuck off to the moon.
In the space of 2
Yeah.
weeks.
No, they got it down to a T. I mean, they could just get Elon Musk involved. Elon Musk could like swagger down. He'd fucking like roll up in a Tesla. He'd do like a big skid in the car park. He'd get out, light up a massive blunt, and just be there like, "Hey, you, get me some rocket parts right now. I got a fucking rocket to finish." And then he'd turn over and be like, "Hey, Charlie, how you doing?" This is how Elon Musk talks. You want some drugs? You want some PCP? No, Elon, I actually just want you to build me the rocket. Ah, that's fine. I can give you some PCP when we get back. It'll be great. You're not coming with me to space, Elon. You're a fucking nightmare to deal with. Ah, fuck you. Fine. Where's the rocket parts? I'm gonna get to work with building me a rocket. Nah. And then he'd build you a rocket. See, I mean, this is the thing. You've got
It's slowly descending into someone that just goes, meh.
you've got to think creatively about these problems, Charlie. This is your problem. This is your problem with all life. Someone gives you a question like, "What would you do with unlimited money in 2 weeks?" And you don't say, "I'd get Elon Musk to build me Elon Rusk." That suits the voice better, actually. Elon Rusk. Nah, my name's Elon Rusk. I come from Brooklyn or somewhere near there, but I'm not sure. Would you like some PCP? Here, have a massive blunt.
Blunt PCP.
Yeah.
my
No,
God.
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's called a killer joint. Don't you know anything about PCP?
No, I tend to avoid it as a rule.
PCP is like holistic fun for the whole family. It really brings the family together with a massive sense of paranoia, but also indestructibility. Next question.
Have you had any weird dreams lately?
Yes.
Can you remember them?
No. I definitely remember having woken up and having had weird dreams, but I'm trying to remember now and I can't really.
Did you ever have recurring dreams as a kid?
I think not when I was a kid, but I think I had a recurring dream of... Yeah, I must have done, because I was thinking, was it like not a dream? Was it something I thought about in real life? But no, of course it was a dream, because that makes it a recurring dream, not just something I've thought about more than once. But no, I had a recurring dream of like a sort of like a skin infection of like tiny holes, like going up my arm. Like I had that quite a lot when I was like a teenager. Not like loads, like maybe a dozen times or something. Yeah, I'm freaked out just thinking about it. Like that's
really pleasant.
That was my. Well, you asked. You brought up this traumatic memory for me.
Well, I mean, I had a recurring dream, but mine wasn't that traumatic. That's really gross. I was walking across a river and I slip and I like crack my head open on a stepping stone every single time.
Yeah, I'd prefer to die that way. Rather than
honestly, it is better. It's a really pretty river.
I'm really freaked out right now because you've made me think about this, and I'm upset with you. I think that's it for the podcast. This is like, we don't even have to do that 2 weeks together, streaming constantly. This has tested our friendship enough. We did it for a budget though, Charlie. We destroyed our friendship on a budget of like 2 shitty microphones and a Discord connection. We didn't even need to do a full like thing in an office for 2 weeks. We're good at this. Let's talk about something else quickly before that memory comes back.
Has anything of note happened to you in the last week?
Yes, I had a doctor's finger up my arse.
Do elaborate.
Well, I mean, there's not much. There's a time in every man's life.
Was it? Did you make an appointment, or was this just a traumatic event?
Well, both. No. I was started exhibiting symptoms of bowel cancer, And
Jesus.
yeah, and then like having known that Total Biscuit had it and said, bloody hell, if you're bleeding out your arse, go to the doctors, even if it's just a tiny bit, just don't be embarrassed. Because I mean, like that's the thing that happens to people if you just get like a fissure in your bum and it just bleeds a little bit and then it cleans itself up and it's gone. Like that's not a problem. I was like, okay, this has happened like on enough consecutive days that I think I should probably go to the doctor. And I went to the doctor. Lovely man, have known him since my childhood. Don't know if that made it better or worse. He went like, so he just sort of had a chat for a bit. He's like, yeah, I think I know what it is. I need to have a look up your ass. And I was like, he didn't quite say it like that, but he said, I need to have a look up your ass. And I was like, yep, standard. I was expecting that. I wasn't like hugely weirded out by the whole thing. Like, it's just because it's just I felt kind of sorry for anyone who has to, go at my arse, but it was, they're not bothered by it, so I don't see why I should be. But then when he like sort of like when I laid down on the thing and he put on this rubber glove, he goes, right, now face away from me, tuck your knees up and think of England, which was a really funny thing to say, especially because he's Irish. And I just like this idea of just thinking of a picturesque cricket pitch in order to like calm myself down. What I actually did was think about like the inner city London and people getting stabbed, and that really sort of agitated me. And then I started freaking out and kicking him, and he was like going, Jesus fucking Christ, get off me. And then, and weirdly, he had to stick his finger up my ass just to calm me down. But yeah, that happened, and I don't have bowel cancer, but it was worth going to get checked. So this is a PSA to anyone involved: if you need to get a finger up your ass, just go do it. All right, it's not that bad.
So we talked about the finger up your bum. Fuck's sake. I was trying to think what I did this week. My parents are coming up tomorrow.
Oh.
So
I'm so sorry that they have to visit Newcastle. They
they're
don't deserve that.
Well, actually, Newcastle's going to be better because they're currently on a campsite in South Shields. So,
oh, Christ.
Actually, I think Newcastle's going to be a step up.
I mean, at least there's running water there, not like in South Shields.
But yeah, apparently the campsite is on the beach though, so it might actually be
so
quite
there is
nice.
Running water, it's just, salt.
It's just salt water, yeah.
So your parents are coming up.
So my parents are coming up. They're coming to visit the house because Harry's got Friday off.
So have
again.
they not been up to see the house yet then?
They've been up a couple of times, but I haven't seen them for a couple of weeks because I didn't go down last weekend.
No, they're doing anyway. How's your mum?
All right.
Apart from being in South Shields, of course.
But I mean, from being in South Shields,
that can be dealt with. Just
No,
bring
no,
them up
they're
to
doing okay.
metropolis of Newcastle. Buildings and lights and a river and some bridges. A lot of bridges, actually. It's the city of bridges.
Newcastle. There are a lot of fucking bridges, actually. There are so many.
It's not as good as Hull, of course, City of Culture. Like I said, I had a job interview for a company in Hull. Went pretty well. It was actually just a really nice chat. I don't care if I get the job or not at this point. I just it was about 35 minutes. I just had a chat with this bloke on the phone, and it was just quite nice.
You did a phone interview? You didn't,
I didn't want to actually go to Hull.
Well, some people don't give you a choice.
No. They were very, very nice lads. I say lads, they're probably, considerably older than me, but, very, very nice. When I say considerably older, I don't mean like geriatric. I mean, real adults, not the fake sort of adult like what we are. Let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie.
Jesus Christ. That's going to end up as my ringtone. That's going to be the bane of my existence.
The weirdest thing is it's going to end up as your ringtone and you're not going to have been the one to set it. I'm going to orchestrate like a creepy plan to get Harry to go into your phone and download just that soundbite of me and set it as your ringtone, and then I'm going to ring you and it's going to go, let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie, and you're so shocked and you pick it up like, hello? And it's me on the phone and I say, let's just jump right into the podcast, Charlie. Oh, it would have been funnier if I'd said, let's just jump right into the phone call, but never mind. That's what I'm going to say every time I phone you now. Admittedly, I've probably phoned you about once in the 4 years that we've known each other, because phones are dumb and for old people. I got charged a huge amount on my phone bill, an extraordinary amount. It's supposed to be 15 quid a month, and I get a shitload of minutes that I never use and a shitload of text, of which I use 40 because I talk to people on the internet like a reasonable human, and then I get a gig of data. And I went over the data limit, and I knew I'd done this. And I was expecting it to charge me a little bit extra. So I went over about 500 megs, I think. And they charged me 40 fucking quid extra. The absolute
Jesus.
scumbag. So I've thought about ringing them and saying, I'll bloody well be switching to another company because of this. And then they might go, oh, well, we'll give you some extra data. Like when you used to ring up like internet service providers and say, I'm going to be switching to Virgin because they give me, if I sign up with them, they give me a free Wi-Fi router, and then that company will go, oh well, we'll send you out a free Wi-Fi router if you stay with us.
Yeah, I mean, I still do that. I've been doing that with Amazon Prime for the past 2.5 months. Every time I go to leave, they're like, hey, would you like an extra free month of Amazon Prime?
Damn, that's a good deal. Why don't you
It's
use
working
that?
out pretty well for me. I am.
Why don't you use that Amazon Prime subscription to subscribe to Not a Cult on
I am
Twitch?
actually subscribed to Not a Cult on Twitch.
Excellent. Not only do you get access to a high range of high quality videos on Amazon Prime Video, but you also, Charlie, get to give me about 30p a month, and quite frankly, I appreciate that. What's that? How much PCP can you buy for 30p? Yeah, PCP street price. I am definitely getting
on a list
phone
somewhere.
call from the police later this evening. We have received word that this premises is being used as the headquarters of a mysterious gang, possibly a cult, which is distributing high amounts of PCP into the local neighbourhood, particularly targeting underage children. Anyone from 5 or less, usually 5 or less, massively drugged up on PCP, it turns out, and we're here to put an end to it. And then I'm just sat there like, well, what my vision? My vision is ruined. How will I live without my extensive PCP distribution network? I can't find the price. Quite frankly, I'm genuinely worried I'm going to get put on a list if I keep Googling this. So I'm just going to close that browser tab.
Oh my god, just don't Google anything to do with bombs and I think you'll be good.
Yeah, I was just out of curiosity earlier, for no other reason, just out of curiosity looking how to build an IED out of several bottles of vodka and a cell phone. Turns out it can't be done. Who'd have thought it? You need other components.
That's such a good image that you just smashing them together.
Yeah. I spend like 2 or 3 hours doing this, and I look up just sort of like quite thoughtfully and puzzled and think, do you know what, Charlie? I'm beginning to think this doesn't work.
You're on like WikiHow.
Now, whenever I go on to WikiHow, it's how to grow your hair super long, which I believe you need to put banana on your hair, wash your hair in onion water, and take biotin.
Oh, I remembered the point of me bringing up why my parents were coming. Basically,
oh, right, yeah. Sorry, I forgot that you were talking earlier.
Yeah. So my parents are coming up, and I mean, you know my mother, right? So every time...
was that a question? Because you said, you know my mother, right? Yes, Charlie. No. Yes, I did. I've known her for about 3 or 4 years, yes.
No.
We're quite good friends, I'd like to think. So just to confirm your suspicions, yes, we have in fact met. Go on.
No, I meant, like, you've heard my mother say, like, don't get any more pets, right?
Yeah, like an alarming amount, yeah. The thing
exactly.
she considers important advice is very narrow, and is basically, don't get any more pets.
She says it, like, every time she sees me, basically. And so she's coming up tomorrow, and I think it might be a little weird to her that when she looks in the guinea pig cage, there are in fact 3 guinea pigs.
I think
and
you
not
shouldn't.
2.
Don't say anything. If possible, set up a hidden camera.
Well, this is what I was thinking, right? I was like, I wonder, because she can't see
much
very
like
well.
a guinea pig.
And I don't want to get like a lecture on like why I shouldn't have any more pets. So I was thinking I'd just not say anything. I'll put some like towels and stuff so that they can hide under it and hope that never 3 of them are out at once.
Why is that guinea pig like twice as small as it used to be? Inflation?
Exactly. It's going to be fine.
Just say something to do with the internet. It's a technology thing. It's about Twitter. And then she'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're probably right. I don't understand these things.
So that's the current
It's not a dilemma. You seem to have sorted that out.
But my mum says she wants to go to the Sedgenham. I mean, me and Harry went last week, so
yeah,
we'll
the place
possibly be
that
going again.
Consisted about 33% of our podcast was talking about that place.
33%. It was about 5%. Thank you. I do not talk that much.
This is what we're gonna do every week: is talk about guinea pigs and what is it called? The Roman place. I'm just going to call it Sedgenham. That's a dumb name. It should be called like Roman Mega Death Fort Old. Then you get a lot more tourists in. There'll be a lot more children going in wanting to see like lasers and shit, and then being really disappointed that it's actually just some rocks.
So, shall we get on with the podcast?
I had an idea, Charlie, that we might just jump right into the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good idea, sir.
So, big thing this week, of course, is that it is coming up to the 1st of December. Obviously, by the time this goes out, that'll be last Saturday. It's coming up to the 1st of December, and that means one thing, and one thing only. The Jingle Jam, the CultCast charity Jingle Jam, will be starting, and it's going to be fucking magical. Now, for those, I know we've already discussed the Jingle Cats, and we were talking about the CultCast last week and making reference to them, and I think I should actually just, in case no one has, people don't watch them or whatever, every year the CultCast, this group of YouTubers and Twitch streamers, does a month-long, like, charity live stream thing, and they're getting, like, a shitload of people to do it, and they do stuff pretty much all day, every day, and then in the middle of the night they like run old YouTube videos on Twitch and stuff, so it's really good, and they raise money for charity. And last year, how much did they raise last year? Yeah, so it was 5.2 million by the 8th of Jan. The reason it's pertinent to the podcast is it means that I'm going to be annoyingly inconsistent with when I'm going to be available for Twitch streaming. The first day of the live streams is going to be on Saturday, when I usually do the Danelaw Adventure with Jig and Gasky, where we play Divinity Original Sin 2. It's proper good, mate.
Except not this Saturday.
Not this Saturday, because I'm going to be watching the Jingle Dome. And I'm kind of annoyed because we didn't get to stream it last week because Jig's internet crapped out. But it's so much fun. I'm really, really excited. We've just gotten to like the end of the tutorial. We've been streaming it for like months, and we've only just got to the end of the tutorial. It's such a big game, and it's so exciting. I'm really hyped to keep playing it. And now, of course, I'm going to be like, oh, sorry, this other thing's more important.
I should point out that we do have our own Christmas, like December schedule, because quite a lot of us watch the CultCast Jingle Jam. So every year I try and work it around who wants to watch what.
Not to mention, of course, like, being that it's Christmas, people do just
and obviously people like visiting family and have things to do, and Christmas
like
stuff.
Like eating the traditional Christmas nut roast, drinking large amounts of London kamikazes, traditional things.
Yeah. So I might get a real Christmas tree this year.
Oh, don't. Why?
Because Harry wants one.
Well, but you're cutting down a tree for nothing. Like, it's all very well...
the tree's going to be cut down anyway, fairly certain. They don't cut it down to order. They just cut a bunch down and then sell it. No,
right, okay, but that's bollocks, isn't it, that? You can't participate in the system of supply and demand and then say, oh, well, I had nothing to do with it. The product was on the shelf anyway. That's how it works. True. But you're cutting down a tree for jack shit, and you'll get pine needles everywhere. We usually get a real Christmas tree. It's just you just get pine needles everywhere, and it's a huge pain in the arse. Admittedly, when you take the tree away and you have this insane pile, because by the time you get rid of the tree, there's like pine needles are like hanging on by the dearest thread, so when you pick up the tree to take it outside or whatever, or put it in a massive bin bag, they all just fall off at once basically, and then you have to go around with a hoover and like suck up this thick layer of like just shitloads of pine needles, and it's like sort of hoovering up a second carpet on top of the original carpet, but this one's green. I forget my original point. So...
As do I. I don't know. I was just thinking about it, because I do like the idea of having a real tree inside, but yeah, it's a pain in the arse.
I just get annoyed by it. Like, I don't want people to come away from this podcast thinking he's some sort of tree-mad lunatic obsessed with people having real Christmas trees. I don't know why it annoys me so much. I think I think we got a fake Christmas tree one year, and I was like, this is just objectively better. Let's do this from now on. And then a couple of people have said, oh, I'm going to start getting a real Christmas tree instead of a fake one. I was like, well, that's going backwards. We've just made progress as a species, and you're going back to the original method of bringing inside a real tree. I suppose it would oxygenate the atmosphere.
They do make real trees in pots.
Yeah.
You can just buy a live one.
Do we ship all of our Christmas trees over from Norway?
No, I think we grow them. We grow some here. I think.
Let's move on from Christmas trees. Let's cut out that non sequitur when I started talking about Norway, because I can't be arsed finishing my sentence now. Go on, cut that out, or it'll annoy people.
No, let's annoy people. This podcast has got to be controversial.
Maybe I'll finish my bullshit, boring point about Norway next week. I've decided, by the way, I decided this a while ago, but I've like not changed my mind. But I've decided that the letter F, is my favourite meme of all time, of my entire life. Like, I think it's going to be like, it's like how Bohemian Rhapsody or like Life on Mars are like, they're good contenders for the best song ever written, even though they're not always my favourite and I'm not always in the mood for them. They're still up there, and F is of the same calibre. I think I'm going to look back 30 years from now, and it's going to be like your favourite band from when you were 14. F is still going to be the best meme, even though memes have moved on, even though your taste in memes has changed. F will always be there for you. So why don't we just jump right into the podcast, Charlie? I believe you have some questions for me.
I do. I have some questions from Discord. So here we go. Bio says, how will the world end? And like thoughts on the impending nuclear war.
I don't know. I think the world will probably end in. The world will probably end in the supernova, but I think that, human civilization will probably end in gamma ray bursts. Every other threat. Oh, of course, nuclear war. But every other threat is we can deal with it. Like, we can deal with nuclear war by electing Jeremy Corbyn. Then, obviously, there'll be no war ever again, and all of the nukes will just vanish. So that'd be perfect.
Obviously.
We can deal with asteroid impacts by, ironically, nuking them. So, maybe we'll have to keep just a couple knocking about just in case. I mean, I'm a Buddhist. I
It'd be so funny if we elected Jeremy Corbyn. You got rid of all the nukes, and then we died by asteroid.
Yeah, it'll be like on The Simpsons, where Lisa wishes for world peace. And everyone gives up their weapons on The Simpsons, and then the two aliens come down in their spaceship, and they have a whip and a plank with a nail through it, and then they conquer the entire planet because the human race has no weapons left. I'm a Buddhist. I like to take a relaxed stance on things, and I think, maybe it's bad that we have these nukes and we could end all life on the planet, but if aliens do turn up, we're going to be damn glad we have them.
True.
Next question. No, we've still got this one to go. We can deal with most apocalypse-causing events with science, or at least conceivably with science that we don't have yet, but could, theoretically we know is possible and we can work towards. Like, just nuking an asteroid is kind of a dangerous proposition, but it can be done. But gamma ray bursts are other than moving away from the solar system, there's not really anything we can do if it happens. They're just not very likely to actually kill us. And the upcoming nuclear war, I think it's quite fascinating because I've just sort of given up on everything and just want to make some memes. I'm actually very fascinated by this. The Russians attacked some Ukrainian ships. Obviously horrible that people were shot and killed for no good reason, and Russia's being aggressive. But it was the only interesting thing on BBC News that I've seen in weeks. God, I hate the fucking BBC News. It's almost as bad. The One Show and BBC News are the two things I hate most. So my parents, my mum.
My parents used to watch the One Show religiously.
My parents make me food on an evening because I'm living with them, which is really fucking nice of them. So I go down and I eat downstairs with them. I don't just take this grab this food like a monkey and scamper back up into my room. I go and sit with them while I eat. We have a chat on that. But when they're watching the telly, obviously I'm not going to barge in and say, nah, fuck this, we're watching Blackadder or whatever. We watch what my parents want to watch, and if it's the fucking one show, I literally, like, slump over in my seat. I sit there with my food on my lap and just, like, miserably stare at the floor until I'm done eating, and then I leave. I'm not even joking. Picture, like, a really cartoonish animation of a Pixar character, like, slumping down and looking miserable as possible. That's exactly what I look like.
You'll have to draw as a recreation of it.
Yeah, I could do that, or I could play Dawn of War. So, you know.
I don't know, it depends on how the world will end. Do you mean human civilization or the actual planet?
Are you asking me this? Because I didn't ask the question.
I'm asking Bio in a rhetorical sense, knowing you won't answer me.
I don't think you'll even be listening, quite frankly.
If you are listening, Bio, what did you mean?
Yeah, if you are listening,
if you aren't
Bio,
listening, why aren't you listening?
If you are listening, Bio, I've just got one thing to say to you. You're a fucking Drago.
Hello?
Hello? How did you get this number? You shouldn't have my personal information.
Fucking Australians.
You fucking prawn. Oh, shit. Yeah, it's South
South
African
Africa.
again. Oh, South Africa. What you doing, mate? Now this scouse. Oh, fucking hell. My accent's going all over the fucking place. I think it's best if you just swiftly move the conversation onwards so I don't offend any more people.
Okay, this is from Gummy. How hard, Zen, can you eat a vape in the shape of an eggplant while he's strapped to a belt saddle?
I'd say about medium.
Okay, moving on. Zen, are you ever going to finish your pixel art on the Minecraft server?
Yes, or no.
Oh, you can play Dawn of War.
Yeah, I fully intend to finish it. Jig was asking me if he could destroy it because I put it... When I made it, there was no buildings like around it. And now people have developed the space underneath it and it's just sort of in the way.
Yeah, now it's just in the middle of a city.
So I am fully intending to finish it because I've sort of done the most difficult bit. But the thing is, I will have to sit for like an hour and really, really focus and not do it on stream because I just end up talking to people and there's a lot of counting involved. But once I get past the next like hour of it, the rest will be really super easy to do. So I am planning on finishing it, but Jig might get annoyed and destroy it. So
speaking of Jig, he's put a couple of questions in here. He said, opinion on books, are they here to stay? I presume versus like ebooks.
Yes, but they'll become, people will have more ebooks. I mean, I'm getting a Kindle. I'm getting a Kindle for Christmas, and this is me. I have historically I never wanted one, but I do now. I've come round to it. I'm getting it.
I'm still pretty cynical.
Well, it's like I tend to sleep better if I'm reading first, and there's not always a hard and fast rule because if I'm reading something, I tend to like stay up for like 3 hours after I should have gone to bed reading instead of actually going to sleep. But it's better than doing the same thing with YouTube videos with a like light in your face. So I sleep better if I read before I go to bed. But then if I don't have a book, like I have other books I could read, but if I don't have the one I want to read, like the next book in a series, I won't fucking read. And then I won't get, like, I've been wanting to read I've read all the Game of Thrones books, but I was rereading them and then realised I didn't have two or three of the last books, and that was months ago, and I still haven't gone and got it from the shop. So if I get a Kindle, when I finish a book, I can just buy the next one, and that's...
So yeah, I just tend to, most of the books I'm reading are so old they're like out of print anyway. So I tend to order them second hand on like Amazon and eBay. So they're only like £1 anyway, and then it gets delivered to your door because I've got this free Amazon Prime. So I'm chilling at the moment. All right. Next question, also from Jig. He said, "How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck
17.
wood?" Gin versus rum. Now that's a hard question.
No, it's not.
They are
gin.
2 out of 3 of my best
gin.
Best beverages. Gin. I don't know. Why is whiskey not in there? That's my question. Because whiskey's pretty solid.
Whiskey's, I can't drink it.
But actually, it's a liquid.
Oh, end of podcast, ladies and gentlemen. She's done it. She's ruined it. I can't drink whiskey. I put myself off.
No, I don't know. It depends. If the rum was cracking and the gin was like, I don't know, something really nice like Hendrix.
Adnams, Copper House is pretty good.
Copper House is good, yeah. It depends what mood I'm in. I tend to actually drink rum more on stream because gin puts me in a weird mood. I don't know why. Rum always makes me happy. Like whiskey does as well. I think because it's like warm.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like that episode of How I Met Your Mother, isn't it? Where they were trying to induce a very specific emotion in people, so they kept giving them different types of alcohol to have different effects on them. I do quite like that show. It's still a trash American sitcom, but it's I like it. It's nice and comforting.
It is, yeah. It's like the newer version of Friends to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a huge fan of Friends. I mean, I wasn't of the age group to watch it, but I was never a huge fan of it. I like it, it's just not. It is what it is. Better than The Big Bang Theory, obviously. Next
All right,
meme.
Mr. Rollo Runner, who, in my opinion, has sent in the best podcast topic so far.
Is that his real name?
I don't believe that is his real name, no. But yes, obviously, this is the man who asked about the sandwiches last week.
Oh, yeah.
He said, what is the appropriate amount of items for self-checkout?
I mean, I'd literally just put through all my items in a self-checkout. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'd take a
I just take everything. And I'm really annoying. Like, I take alcohol and stuff that needs, like, approving. I take so long at self-checkout. But, yeah, I like to avoid people.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I literally... when we've been shopping, like, when we lived together at Tesco's, when we did, like, proper shops, we still didn't buy, like, a huge amount. We very rarely did a big trolley full. So because usually got, some student money for a week and then spent that on food and then, didn't buy a lot of it, largely beer, and then did the same next week. So yeah. To be fair, we went to Tesco's quite a lot. I used to go to Tesco's pretty much every day, largely to buy beer for the evening.
Even when we lived, like, not in our last house, the house before, we still lived right next to a Tesco's.
Yes, that was a lot of, yeah.
I've conveniently placed all of my houses next to Tesco's, except for the one I currently live in, and there's no Tesco for miles, and I'm actually really salty about it, because there's only an Asda, and it's shit. It's a shitty little Asda, and I'm salty about it.
Other supermarkets are available.
They are available, and
just not where Charlie lives.
They're just not where I live.
When we lived near the Tesco's in the house in second year of uni. I went through a massive kick in the summer of like I would go to Tesco's. It was when I was in the house on my own. Actually, you were like at your parents or something, presumably with a sick gecko or something, and Rob had moved. Yeah. Rob had just moved out. And I was like in the house on my own for like a week, and I would go to Tesco's and I would get Budweiser in cans and onion rings and like baked beans and like an onion, and I would like make the onion rings and like I would cook the baked beans and like fry just some onion and maybe some pine nuts, and then put the onion and the pine nuts in the baked beans. And actually I remember having it out of like a big pint glass once because I didn't have a bowl, and it was good because it had like a handle on the side. The pint glass had a handle on the side, so I could just sort of sit holding in one hand with my it was like a big beer mug, and then and I went through a big onion rings kick and Budweiser, and I remember like sitting in the kitchen a lot for some reason. I don't know why I was in the kitchen, just on that shitty plastic white chair we had with my feet up on the counter eating this shitty food and like watching YouTube videos and just getting really drunk. I'll see if I can find a picture. I have a picture, or at least I did, of my room from second year of uni, and I've got this picture. It's like a piece of Renaissance art. It's beautiful. There are just these huge piles of beer cans and just stuff all over the walls and clothes on the floor and shit.
That house was just so shit.
It was.
It was just such a shit house. And when you move into a house and it's already shit, you don't really want to look after it because you can't improve on it further. Like, so it's...
You walk into the house and you think, well, I'm pretty sure I can see where the trajectory is going on this. Let's just continue. Let's just keep going more shit.
That's essentially where it went.
Funnily enough, that's sort of what happens with the podcast as well. You just walk, you start up Audacity, you sit down, I press the button, Charlie's there like, hello? And I'm like, excellent, we started off, it's shit, and it's just going to keep getting worse.
Alright, next question. So this is from Gasky. It says, I think fine art should be discussed, and...
if anything with naked people can be considered art.
Yeah, can be considered art. Thank you.
Yes, Gasky, I didn't realise you were a Christian fundamentalist. Yes, obviously it can. What a dumb question. I'd like to state for the record that I still hold you in high esteem. Just slightly less.
I think it's like, is anything that's got naked people in art?
Oh, I see.
I think that was the premise. Like, the grammar messed me up a bit.
So she means everything.
Yeah.
If everything with naked people can be considered art, I mean, yes, it can be considered art.
I think technically anything in the world can be considered art.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Beans on toast, that could be art.
Yeah,
take a photo
put it on
of
Instagram.
Exactly.
Got 16 likes.
Bam.
I feel validated.
How would a chicken wear jeans? To which Bio said, how would a dog wear pants? Which was then amended to, which animal wears trousers the weirdest?
I think that the animal that would wear trousers the weirdest would be a giraffe wearing dungarees. Are we done with these now?
We are.
Excellent.
We're done. We're done.
Right then, Charlie. I think it's time Do you think it's time for Gin Quest?
I do believe it's time for Gin Quest.
Okay.
I also feel like it's about time that I'm going to sneeze. Just hold on a second. Nope, apparently I'm not.
Excellent.
Moving on.
I'm glad that we kept that in the podcast. I've sent you a character sheet, and I'm going to send you tonight's poster for you to put on screen.
Oh no, it's a new one.
Gin Quest Part 2. Shadows of Jatlantis. Going for a bit of a different tone. Things have changed since last week, Charlie. You remember, of course, to recap last week on Gin Quest. Previously on Battlestar Galactica. Charlotte Ginsbury, a top-level gin-based researcher, was doing some top-level gin-based research when she realised she was out of gin. She rushed down to the local ginporium, where she was attacked by a man from the Vodconian Revolutionary Front, or whatever the fuck I called it.
That was actually pretty accurate.
And then, upon defeating him in single combat with a really, really bad revolver system, with one bullet in it at a time, I mean, you might as well use a flintlock pistol at that point. That's all I'm saying. It defeats the point of a revolver. Like, they were literally invented so you could have multiple bullets at once. And you were like, I have a revolver and 2 bullets, but I'm going to keep them separately. Anyway, and then you were greeted by a mysterious man who gave you some gin, which you ran away into the street, killing several people before drinking, and you passed out and saw that his face was a big neon smiley face under his hood. And
Yes.
You were terrified. Okay, are you ready?
I was spooked. I am ready.
Your name is still Charlotte Ginsbury. You are unbelievably hungover. You awaken in a dark room. The light is mercifully dim. How much did you drink last night? And then it all comes flooding back to you. Your research, the battle with the Vodconian, and of course, the mysterious hooded figure with his neon face and neon gin. The room you are in is sparsely furnished, containing only the bed you lie in, a comfortable looking sofa, and a table on which stands, thank the gods, a glass of water. What do you do?
I sniff the water.
Roll me a gin law check.
7.
It is simply a glass of water. There is nothing in it, especially not Rohypnol, I promise. No, it is just water.
I'm convinced.
It is just water. Well, I'm convinced. It is just water. It's water.
Okay. I take a drink of the water.
You take a drink of the water. It's fucking good. Like when you are just like so hungover and so dehydrated and you have like that first sip of water and it's just the best feeling in the world. You take it a few sips at a time at first, not wanting to overload yourself. You don't want to feel a bit ill. And then when you realise that you're not going to be sick, you drink the rest of the water, very quickly draining the glass, and you feel a lot better. You gain +1 health point. You are now on 8 health points out of 10.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, so you are stood in the room. There is a single door leading out, which is a heavy metal looking door with a control panel next to it, which you think you recognise the technology of, and there are no other windows or exits.
Right. I ram the door.
You charge
Shoulder barge
headlong at the door with your shoulder. It doesn't fucking budge. You realise after you fall to the floor in a massive amount of pain and even worse of a splitting headache, that the door slides open into the wall because it's a fucking sci-fi door. You are a fucking idiot. At any other time in your life, Charlotte Ginsbury, you would have known that, but you were so fucking hungover that you really fucked it. You really beansed it up, and now you lost that health point that you just regained from drinking the water.
Shit.
You're now on 7 health points.
I try sliding the door.
Okay, make me a strength check.
5.
You just about managed to prise your fingers into the crack where the door opens and slowly slide it enough for you to squeeze out. As you begin to squeeze through the door, you actually look at the control panel and realise there's just a big button that says open on it. But nevertheless, you've found your way out through the door now. You open it up and you step through. Well, you step through. It's more of like a painful squeezing through the door on which your belt gets caught and you have to sort of unhook it, and it's a bit of a faff. But you eventually get out into a glass corridor with a rough metal floor, lit by harsh electric lights which do nothing to help the throbbing pain in your head. Or, in fact, the throbbing pain in your shoulder, but that was from something different. You squint, and you see the path leads out about 10 metres to a door identical to the one you just entered through, and you can see a control panel next to that door that has a big button saying open on it, so you know not to shoulder barge it this time. But it is the sight outside that captures your attention. Your mouth hangs open ungracefully. Outside the thin glass shell, a great city stretches out under the half-light. A great city, on the bottom, you realise, of the ocean. You look upwards. An enormous glass dome covers the landscape, but the city on the ocean floor is flooded, even under the great dome's protection. You peer harder into the transparent gloom, straining your eyes. It looks like the buildings are glowing, a deep, dark green, almost too dim to see, but glowing, definitely. A slow pulsing, like a sickly heartbeat. Roll me a perception check.
5.
You can just about make out in the gloom shapes moving. Were the city not submerged, you would be sure you could see people moving in the ruins. You gape a while longer, but realise there is nothing else to be gained from standing agog in this submerged corridor. After all, you need to find yourself some fucking aspirin.
Are there any other doors in the corridor?
Only the one you entered through, and the one at the end of the corridor.
Okay, I walk down to that new door and I open it.
Okay.
Using the open button.
You actually successfully use the open button, and you feel a little bit more secure in your intelligence this time. The room on the other side is very smartly furnished. It's also dimly lit, thank God. It seems to be part laboratory, part cocktail bar. As you step into the room, you see a wide array of comfortable looking leather sofas and chairs, and you see, sat in the middle, the mysterious robed man sipping what clearly looks like a large gin and tonic. What do you do?
I go over and take his gin and tonic and sip it.
Roll me a reflexes check.
1.
This man is extremely agile, you can tell, but just as he's about to sort of gracefully move from your grasp, sensing your intention, you grab it straight out of his hands and sip it very casually, looking down at him. You can tell he is impressed. The only way I could tell you how impressed he is to say, very.
I ask him who he is.
The old man chuckles. Chuckling, you see. Sound effects. Very, very impressive. Who I am is not important. I was going to mix you your own drink, you know. He walks over to a cupboard by the bar, which is stocked floor to ceiling with boxes of aspirin, of which he takes a pair of pills out of and gives them to you, rather. Here, take these, he said, prompting you to take the fucking pills.
Okay, take the pills.
You gain 2
and
health points.
I swallow them with my gin.
You gain 2 health points and your headache abates slightly. You are now on 9 health points. He's slightly annoyed by the fact that you just stood there not taking the pills off his hands for about 30 seconds. But then he seems to recover from this quite swiftly and gestures for you to sit opposite him.
I sit down.
As you sit, he places 2 bottles of gin, tiny bottles like the one he gave you the last time to bring you here to knock you out. But one of them is red and one of them is blue, and he sits on the opposite side, away on the other side of the table, looking at you. He says, "Tell me, dear, do you know where you are?"
I tell him no.
Okay. "Why, of course," he laughs. "We are in the ancient fabled city of Jatlantis." I need you to roll a gin lore for the Jatlantis backstory.
4?
Oh, you know a lot about Jatlantis. Being a high-level gin-based researcher, you of course know many things about the ancient mythical lost city, but you thought it was just a legend. "Of course I've heard of Jatlantis," you exclaim, "but it's just a story. It is the place where it is said, thousands of years ago, mankind first invented the gin that would become its saviour, its greatest asset, and of course, a refreshing beverage. This is of course considered heresy, you realise, by most organised religions. Everyone is taught from an early age that gin was a gift from Jesus Christ, and yet here you sit in the mythical city under the waves." "Yes," he said, "you are correct. The ancient city, the first great city of mankind, was built at a place where the fabric of the universe runs thin against the next, and from the ether beyond, the Jatlantians," fucking hell, that's a mouthful, "the Jatlantians learned the secret magic of making really fucking strong alcohol. But beneath their streets, a dimensional breach formed. Some say the Jatlantians opened it themselves, some say not. But what is known is that from the... Fuck, I've lost my place on the page. Shit, hold on. Cut the music. Let me just find out where this is. Ah, yes. Some say the Jetlantians opened it themselves, being accomplished as they were in Jinn lore. But what is known for certain is that out of the portal spilled forth corrupted beings from another universe, known as the Absinthians. They fought a great war against the Absinthians, a race of beings from another universe, where absinthe became the dominant form of alcohol instead of gin. He shudders visibly, as though horrified by the thought of not having gin. The war raged for decades, and when the Jetlantians were about to lose their city, which would have allowed the Absinthians to spill out of the breach and conquer the earth, they cast an ancient gin spell to sink their city and close the breach. In more recent times, we detected trace amounts of absinthe leaking into the seawater in the Atlantic, and we found the city. We built this place, the great glass dome you see to contain the spread of absinthe, the observation station you sit in, to keep an eye on it and also serve refreshments. And of course, we pumped the dome full of gin just to make sure.
Oh, so it's not full of water, it's full of gin.
Full of
That's
gin.
quite cool. I walk over and open a window.
Make me a strength check.
6.
You clutch stupidly, I might add, at the fucking window, the clasp that holds it shut. And you just can't quite open it, but you open it just enough that a slow trickle of gin begins to flow in from the outside. But as you go to presumably drink the gin, you degenerate, the trickle becomes a stream, and the stream becomes a river, and the river a flood, and you realise that the window is being forced open with the pressure of the gin from the outside. You have barely a moment to contemplate the horrible, drowning gin death you have created for yourself in this stupid decision, and quiver in terror before suddenly the gin has stopped. You look over and see the masked man. Sorry, the hooded man. I get them confused. Both concealed faces. He's holding out his hand towards the window, and the gin slowly moves back up the wall, slithers back outside, and then closes the window. You are very impressed by this. The only way I could possibly describe how impressed you are is to say very, very impressed. He mutters under his breath, "Fucking bloody idiot, shit-faced, dumb fucking slut," and then somehow apparently realising that you could hear him goes, "You know, I just literally gave you a gin and tonic and said I would offer to make you as many as you liked, and even gave you some aspirin, and you tried to kill us because you're a fucking idiot. Maybe I should not have brought you here." He turns dramatically and paces to the window on the opposite side of the room, his arms clasped behind his back. "Perhaps I was wrong about you. You see, I brought you here for a reason." He turns sharply and even more dramatically back towards you. "Don't you want to know why that is?"
Yes. Why? Ask him why. Tell me why.
He turns away again. "Legend tells of a warrior who will one day arise from the surface world to complete the most important quest of all time, the Jinn Quest. The warrior, it is said, will travel between all the different worlds of the multiverse, worlds dominated by all different types of alcoholic beverage, and retrieve the mysterious artifact known as the first vintages from each universe, and only then they would gain the power to defeat the evil Absinthians once and for all. The warrior, it will be distinguished, of course, by their most powerful liver. I believe I have found that warrior in you." He turns and comes back to the table around which you now stand. "But first you must prove yourself. You must travel to the heart of the Jetlantian ruins and retrieve the first bottle of gin ever created. I offer you this choice. You can accept my gifts." He gestures to the red bottle of gin on the table. "And my request. And go on a magical gin-based adventure for about 15 minutes every Thursday between 7 and 8 o'clock. Or you can go back to your normal life," he gestures at the blue bottle, "and seek your fortune against the Vodka Revolutionary Front, for their crosshairs will be certainly on you by now. Also, you committed several murders."
I will accept your quest and your gifts.
He gestures to the red bottle of gin. You notice at this point, not only is he wearing his familiar hood that hides his grotesque neon face, but he's also wearing a leather jacket, and you get the impression underneath the hood some sunglasses like Morpheus out of the Matrix. You wonder to yourself whether the Matrix is a thing in the world of Gin Quest, and whether or not this can be considered plagiarism. And then you go over, and presumably I assume you want to drink the gin. You have to drink it, that's the point. You have to drink one of the gins.
Alright, I will drink...
The blue gin is to go back to your regular life, and the red gin is to accept the Gin Quest.
I will drink the red gin.
You drink the red gin. Once again, it is incredibly good gin. If not for the other gin you had the other night that knocked you out, you would say this was the best gin you have ever tasted. But given that you had the other gin the other night that knocked you out, you can in fact say comfortably, this is the second best gin you have ever drunk. It slides down your throat, and you find yourself refreshed. After all, hair of the dog is the best way to recover from a gin-based hangover. But then, as you realise as you drink it, you become to feel drowsy again, and with a great sigh, you fall to the floor and realise that the gin has once again knocked you out, and you can't for a second imagine why this would be necessary this time, given that you are already where he wants you to do the quest. But you roll your eyes, fall to the floor, and resign yourself to having to wait till next week between 7 and 8 PM on a Thursday. End of part 2. Before you all go, our customary sign off that we do at the end of every video and podcast we do, never run with scissors.